talking with the experts.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. My name's Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com, and Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners, and you can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. And today my guest is Dr. Maria Church, and Dr. Maria is a professional speaker, a leadership and workplace culture expert. She works with organisations to improve their organisational cultures to represent who they are and who they want to be. Her organisational culture work has realised her clients over 300% return on investment, intentionally shaping their cultures to support strategic objectives and be a differentiator in the marketplace. Her recent book, Love-Based Leadership, the model for leading with strength, grace, and authenticity, hit the Amazon best-selling list. Well, her upcoming book, A Course in Leadership, 21 Spiritual Lessons on Power, Love, and Influence, will be released, my goodness, later in the year. Dr. Church has started a long-needed movement to revolutionise the workplace by transforming leadership at all levels through a seismic shift from fear to love. I love that. That's a great strategy, and we all need a little bit more about in doing that. Welcome, Maria, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Yeah, I'm getting tongue-tied. It's because someone so famous is on my podcast. My goodness. Congratulations on the books.
Thank you.
It's to get to number one is really great. One day I hope to be on the New York best-selling list, but
well, New York, right? That'll be next. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. It was actually the 10th anniversary edition of the book. So I was really thrilled that it's resonated with so many people.
Oh, well done. Yeah. Okay. So tell me a little bit more about what you do with your organizations.
Sure. So right now I've been, and really almost for the last probably 6 or 7 years, have been working almost exclusively with local governments, so cities and towns and counties, and working with them in a twofold manner. One for leadership development, and also for organizational culture. And so really we're finding that, especially in the local government space, that there is a real desire to very intentionally and strategically shape their cultures to really represent who they are as an organization and who they want to be. And it's funny because at least certainly in the United States, there's a little bit of a stigma around organizations, whether it's federal, state, local, that, they're very rigid and non-innovative, and they're averse to change. And I just laugh at that because that is so opposite from the truth, or at least certainly the organizations that I've been working with. There is such a desire to really innovate and a need to innovate. And they're not averse to risk and change at all, because they're changing pretty much every 2 years as new elected officials get voted on and possibly put into the organization. So it's a very exciting and dynamic industry to work with, and they're just such amazing people, because they show up to work with such a desire to make a real positive influence and change in their communities. I mean, that's really the whole reason that local governments exist, is really to support the community. And these folks show up with both their head and their heart. And that's, as you well know, a powerful force, when you can connect the head and the heart together.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love it when organizations, embrace that culture. However, there are a lot of doomsayers within those organizations who believe it's all a bit fluffy. And, how would you answer that?
You mean about love?
Well, having the love and, the loving culture, and they don't want to be innovative. They hate change. They hate anything to do with that. And they just want to, I mean, we've got local governments over here who are just, they're ripping off people left, right and centre. And, you know, they just in it for the money. They don't really care about who they're serving. So, you know, how and what could they be doing to, you know, change that mindset or that culture?
Sure. So that's a great question and can go really deep
Well, I'd like you to.
and
Yeah, that would be
juicy. Okay,
great.
yeah, let's do it. Let's just go deep and juicy. So number one, here in the United States, to work for a local government is not very competitive price wise than for salaries than private industry. So private industry by far would pay much higher typical wages than local government. So number one, a lot of people that choose to work in local government are not doing it necessarily for the money, although the benefits oftentimes can be great depending on the organization, but they typically, and of course there's always exceptions to the rule, right? But typically they're drawn to that industry because they're very service oriented and that they truly want to make a difference. Now, that aside, for any organization, whether it's local government, private industry, nonprofit, education, whatever, it's important that within the organization, that all of the people who work within the organization have a very, very clear understanding of the purpose and the why they exist. And so whenever I'm working either with an individual in an executive coaching situation or an executive team really looking to shape their culture in a strategic way, we always get very clear on the why. Why are we here? Why are we doing the work that we're doing? And oftentimes, Rose, especially when people have been working in an organization or in a position for a long period of time, we seem to get disconnected from that. You know, it's still there in our head and in our heart, but all the other daily stuff piles on it and clouds our view of that. And so when we get really clear on why we're here, oftentimes, boom, we immediately go back to serving the people, you know, that exist in our community, serving the constituents, serving the clients, you know, if it's a private organization, but getting really clear on why we're here, why do we exist? And then on a personal level, why am I doing the work that I'm doing? And that can really help align the people with the mission of the organization. So we always start with why. And I'll be forever grateful for Simon Sinek for bringing that idea into the consciousness of the masses. Because I think before, when you would really talk about the why or the purpose, that was sort of that fluffy stuff that, you know, people didn't talk about. So yay that, you know, now that's part of the mainstream conversation.
Yeah, it is absolutely. And yeah, Simon has a lot to be grateful for. I mean, we have a lot to be grateful for his presence in the world, I think.
Absolutely.
Watch a lot of his videos, and yeah, he's not only a joy to watch, but he's a joy to listen to, and he's just full of stuff that, you know, that betters your world, I think.
Yes, and he's
Isn't it?
speaking from the heart, you know.
Yeah, he's an amazing
And there's
man.
nothing fluffy about that. It inspires us and motivates us, and that's really where authenticity lies anyway.
Absolutely. I'd like to know a little bit more about both of your books. The first one, Love-Based Leadership. What brought that about? And, you know, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I really worked most of my career in corporate America, and worked for a Fortune 500 company. We were a land developer and home builder, and so I worked for them for 15 years. I was in senior leadership, and I remember, you know, sort of this realization that the more I grew up the ladder, it seemed like the more it was expected that I didn't bring my whole self to show up. Almost like I kind of had to check my soul at the door, you know, check my spirit at the door. and that never really felt authentic for me. And I was really wanting for something more. And so what do I typically do? I typically go back and get another degree. So I went into my doctoral program, and it's a Doctor of Management and Organizational Leadership. So we took a deep dive into leadership models and theories, and everything leadership, which was thrilling and exciting, and I loved every moment of it. One thing that I thought was kind of strange and odd is in our book, that was, I am not exaggerating, this thick. It made the most amazing doorstop of leadership theories and models, that there was nothing in there that was really described what I was looking for as a leader. And that was really a holistic model of leadership. I'd say servant leadership was probably the closest, but even that didn't really speak to, for instance, self-care, because you were always putting everybody else in servant leadership. And so in that journey, as I was working on my dissertation, for example, I thought, okay, well, I want to add to the great body of knowledge, and I want to create and develop this leadership model that's inside of me that I feel the discourse was missing. And so that's really where I developed this leadership model. Ironically enough, my cohort, as they saw me develop it and sort of noodle on it and grow it, expand it, was very supportive. But the university actually started to push back once I started to put my committee together for the dissertation. And I was so frustrated because I felt like at every turn, the professors were kind of discouraging me from doing this. So out of sheer frustration, I practically pinned, the dean up against the wall. And I'm like, please tell me why you guys are supporting this. And she basically said, I think this is an important model and you need to put it out into the world. You need to wait until you have a doctor in front of your name, because the university won't support it. It's too controversial. And Rose,
wow.
that blew me away. It's like, how can you not talk about an advanced discussion of leadership and not talk about the most powerful force on the planet? To me, that was just like, so so I had to wait until after I did a different study then for my dissertation, but I had to wait until afterwards before I put that out. And so I did. And like I said, it's really a holistic model of leadership, and it's based on three primary pillars. Love of self. So that's where I differ a little bit from servant leadership, because I believe it always starts with self first, whether that's self-awareness, self-care, just really honoring your mind, body, and spirit, right? And there, that goes into much detail, which I know we don't have time for today. But there's a lot that goes to love of self. Then the second of the three pillars is love of source. And that's really where we connect to that source of vitality for us. And strategically chose the term source because I did this to be confused with a religious doctrine. Now, for some people, source would be God. For some people, source would be the universe, Mother Earth. It doesn't matter to me what we call it. What matters and what I believe is important from a holistic perspective is that we connect with that source for us. And then the third and final pillar, and if you can imagine this, first we focus on ourself and then source, and then the next automatic extension is others, reaching out. And so love of others is where we look at things like forgiveness and shared power and shared knowledge and innovation and meaning, finding meaning in the work that we do. And so that's the model, that it really does celebrate ourselves, our connection with our spirituality, and then of course our service of others.
Yeah, they're good teachings that should be brought into every organisation, and kudos to you, because it's a powerful force when you can use those three pillars in any organisation, whether it be large or small. It's
I wholeheartedly agree. I do, and even furthermore, I don't believe that this is just a model for positional leaders. I believe that we are all leaders at the very least, and certainly the very greatest of our own lives. And so
Absolutely.
when we can really, again, lead in a powerful way, even if it's our own life, but chances are we're touching someone else in that manner, whether it's our family members, our community, our teams at work, or our entire organization.
Hmm. So the upcoming book is A Course in Leadership. What do you want to just touch on that one a little bit?
Yeah, so that is even more. I feel like 10 years ago, when I wrote Love-Based Leadership, the very first edition, that I was creating this new bookshelf that combined leadership and spirituality. Today, I'm happy to say that there are several more books on that bookshelf, and with other people that are also talking about the importance of combining our whole selves together. And so, A Course in Leadership, 21 Spiritual Lessons, that is even more embracing our spirituality from a leadership perspective. And so, I go through 21 different lessons in what I believe really fleshes out an authentic and powerful, very powerful leadership, without being, aggressive. Because I think a lot of our mental models around power is like this.
Yeah.
But I think, we're an enlightened enough people now that we see that this is actually only superficially powerful. But to be really powerful is connecting our heads and our hearts and connecting that with one another. And so there's different lessons in the 21 spiritual lessons, and that's things like grace, and influence, and we talk about power, and so it's actually, Rose, I have to say, I'm most proud of this particular manuscript to date.
Yeah, I think gratitude too has a lot to do with it.
That's one of the lessons.
Yeah, I was I'm always grateful for whatever I receive, but in the last 12 months, I've actually learned to practice gratitude every single day. So before I go to sleep, I thank the universe for whatever it has happened to me for the day, whether it be, something large or something small. But I found that my life's turned around, and it's I don't know, much more pleasant. And I'm just that one little step has changed my life, just to practice that gratitude.
I completely agree. I remember taking on a gratitude challenge many years ago. I think I had heard it on Oprah, or read it in the magazine or something. And, it was during the month of Thanksgiving for us in November. And so it was, doing it the whole month, making a commitment to write our gratitudes at the end of the day. And I remember doing that, and would just surprise the heck out of me. And I've heard this before, that you are what you think, and the power of intention, and so I believed that kind of at an intellectual level. But it wasn't until I started that gratitude practice that you were just describing that I realized, oh my gosh, those things for which I was grateful, I ended up receiving more of that.
Hmm.
And so it really does, I think, not only make us more content and a happier people, it also provides even greater abundance to us.
It does. I think, I mean, people think it's all woo-woo and, fluffy, but it isn't. It is actually true. I mean, I'm a really big fan of Mike Dooley, and
Mhm, mhm.
his thing
Several
is,
of the books back here.
yeah, thoughts become things, and I love his
Yeah.
notes from the universe, you know,
Yes.
and sometimes I just think he's written it just for me, because just the way
I'm
they're
sure.
worded, I really do think they're just worded just for me, and he's an amazing man. And
And that's what happens. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I don't know, he's got such a way with what he's teaching. And now he's a religious, like he's a churchgoer, but he still practices this other type of spirituality. And to me, it's amazing.
And I agree. And I firmly believe that when we really do speak from the heart, that is our most authentic self. And when we really do speak from the heart, it resonates in such a profound way with other people because truth is truth is truth is truth. Doesn't matter how we package it, right? It's just like, it's truth. And I don't know about you, but when somebody says something to me or I hear something and I get goosebumps, I almost feel like, ooh, that's the Holy Spirit or the universe, whatever you
Yeah,
want to call it, like
absolutely. Yeah,
tickling me, saying, ooh, pay attention.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm exactly the same. If I get goosebumps when someone does something or says something, it's a good feeling, and I know that it's meant for me, and it can't be wrong.
Agreed. Completely agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny too, because sometimes some people are a little uncomfortable talking about like love. We can talk about fear all day long. That's fine. Oh, heaven forbid, talk about love. And yet I've had people ask me to come into the organization and talk about, leading with love and talk about the head heart connection. And the funny thing is, most of these people that are asking me to do this are males, male leaders in the organization.
Wow, that's surprising.
It's just thrilling. It really is, because again, I think truth is truth, right? And it doesn't matter, who it is, male or female. But I have to admit, I was a little bit surprised that it seemed like so many men were so open to this. And outwardly so more than women. But that could also be that as women, professional women, we kind of learned to, hide our emotions because we didn't want to be too
Yeah.
much of a woman, right? Like,
Yeah,
oh gosh,
absolutely
heaven forbid you
agree.
show an emotion, right? So that could be why that, the men were more open with it than the women. But I don't know. Rose, I think the tide is changing. I think, and like I said, we're seeing more books about this on the bookshelf now, and more of these kinds of discussions are happening. And I think as a world, we're ready for embracing love. I think we've had it up to here with fear. And to me, fear is the antithesis of love. So that's why I talk about it in a dichotomy a lot. But I think we're ready. I think we've been hungry for a while for really approaching it
I think
holistically.
2020 really brought it to a head, because we've had to, I mean, we can't, couldn't do in-person things, so we relied on the internet quite a great deal more. And there was people couldn't visit family, they couldn't touch, they couldn't do anything, and it was very difficult. And so the only way you could express yourself was a Zoom meeting or a FaceTime meeting or something like that. And people have I think come to realize the connection between togetherness and the need for touch and the need for closeness. And I think that's we sometimes we have things to be grateful for the pandemic, I must say.
I completely agree. I mean, my heart goes out to all of the people that lost loved ones.
Yeah, mine too.
And I don't want to minimize that at all. That said, there's always a yin and a yang, right? And on the positive side, I've seen so many positives, and that allowed us to slow down. It allowed us to reconnect, like you were saying, that human connection, even though it was Zoom. I don't know about you, but I probably spoke to more people in 2020 worldwide than I would have with all of my travels.
Oh,
Speaking
absolutely.
and
I wouldn't have
consulting.
started this podcast if it hadn't been for the pandemic.
Right, exactly. Same thing with our business. We created some fantastic projects this year that was really, again, allowed us to be able to focus on that. And I think from a leadership perspective, at least what I've seen, is that leaders throughout the pandemic really became much more powerful, in that the transparency was so apparent. We're literally in each other's home during the day, having meetings, and and we know what happens in the home. The dog barks, the cat jumps up on the desk, the delivery is at the front door, the phone might be ringing, the little ones might come in, they're hungry, or whatever that is. I mean, it's life. And so we were able to see, and people were able to see, the leaders of their organizations as real human beings.
Absolutely.
And to see them so transparent, and the empathy that I think grew up and out of that. I've had many conversations with leaders of organizations, and we've spoken about the importance of really carrying that forward as we start to come back into the organizations, that it's so important that we keep that, the lessons that we learned, like empathy and being accessible, keep that going. It doesn't have to be all online or all in the building. You know, we can still do the town halls or the monthly Q&As where the leader of the organization is 100% accessible to everybody in the company. And I think that if we can really leverage what we positively learned, then it wasn't for naught.
Yeah. No, I believe that, I think, if we can keep that empathy going inside the physical workplace, I think, the world will be a lot better off. And I hope, people don't forget that, the life they had, having to work from home.
Yes.
So,
Yes. And
anyway,
we've been empathetic, with each other.
yes,
With
that was very deep and meaningful conversation.
Well, that's me. I go deep fast. So there we go. And I could tell you were open to it. So
I loved it. I know. I absolutely loved it. Have you got any words of wisdom, Maria?
I believe that in any given moment, we have the opportunity to choose love or fear, whether it's at work, whether it's at play, whether it's just relaxing at home. And I believe that when we can choose love over fear, that we've now stepped into our power.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. That's you won't get an argument from me on that point. Lovely. It was lovely to speak to you, Maria. Where can people find you?
Thank you. So my main website, Maria at Dr. and it's just Dr. drmariachurch.com. And I have to tell you, we didn't talk about this before, but I just feel very moved to do this now. So I'm just going to do it because I get that tickle, and so I have to listen, right? So I have a organizational culture assessment that measures love-based cultures. And I would love to offer that to your listeners. So if your listeners would be interested in doing the love-based culture complimentary in their organization, just have them reach out to me at Maria at drmariachurch.com or through the contact at drmariachurch.com. And I'd be happy
to. That's so
to.
generous. Thank you. That's lovely.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
All right. Well, lovely speaking with you. And hopefully we'll catch up later on in the year.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Thank you again.
Okay. Thank you.